Now it's my great privilege to introduce Jens Stoltenberg, the Secretary General of NATO. Secretary General, it's an honor to hear from you today. This is the third consecutive Weapons of Mass Destruction conference at which you are providing a keynote address. It demonstrates the highly priority that this alliance, as well as you personally, accord to arms control, disarmament, and non-proliferation, as well as an essential component to our security. With that, may I pass the floor to you, Secretary General.
Thank you so much, Irini, and good afternoon to you all. And many thanks to Minister Kofod Jeppe for your remarks, and to Denmark for organizing this year's NATO conference on arms control, disarmament, and non-proliferation. Let me also thank Denmark for your long-standing commitment to our alliance. You provide high-end capabilities to our collective defense. You contribute to the NATO forward presence in the Baltic region, and you play an important role in the High North. Denmark also leads our training mission in Iraq, and for 20 years you have made significant contributions and sacrifices in Afghanistan. We went into Afghanistan to deny terrorists a safe haven from where they could conduct attacks against us. And for 20 years, no terrorist attacks against NATO countries have been organized from Afghanistan. Now we have ended our military presence there. But the efforts of the Danish and other NATO soldiers were not in vain. Our task now is to preserve the gains in the fight against terrorism and remain vigilant. We must also do our utmost to ensure that Afghans at risk who wish to leave are given safe passage. We will continue to prioritize this effort, working with allies and partners. The crisis in Afghanistan does not change the fundamental need for Europe and North America to continue to stand strong together in NATO. Our unity is crucial to tackle the rising challenges in a more competitive world, including to deal with arms control, disarmament, and non-proliferation. And we are determined to continue to play our part. At the NATO summit in June, leaders agreed to further strengthen our efforts in this field, to preserve Euro-Atlantic security, uphold and strengthen international rules-based order, and help ensure strategic stability worldwide. This is no easy task, and we must be clear-eyed about the challenges before us. Russia continues to ignore and bend the rules. It undermines key treaties. Russia is also modernizing its dual-capable and nuclear capabilities, including intercontinental ballistic missiles. Its hypersonic glide vehicle is now operational, and it has tested a new air-launched ballistic missile and a nuclear-powered cruise missile. Meanwhile, China's nuclear arsenal is rapidly expanding, with more warheads and more sophisticated delivery systems. Moreover, China is building a large number of missile silos, which can significantly increase its nuclear capability. All of this is happening without any limitation or constraint, and with a complete lack of transparency. There are also other players fielding nuclear weapons and advanced missile systems. North Korea and Iran, for example, are blatantly ignoring or breaking the global rules and spreading dangerous technology. So the world is rapidly becoming more unpredictable, more competitive, and more dangerous. NATO is adapting to this changing world. At the Brussels summit last June, we agreed NATO 2030, a transatlantic agenda for our future security. This means using NATO even more as a unique platform for dialogue on arms control, disarmament and non-proliferation. Bring allies and other countries together to advance these critical issues. I see three goals that require us to continue to work closely. First, we must preserve the NPT. This treaty remains the cornerstone of global nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament architecture. NATO allies remain strongly committed to its full implementation and to a meaningful outcome at the upcoming 10th Review Conference. This will be a major opportunity for the international community to strengthen the NPT. We must all seize this opportunity. NATO's aim is a world free of nuclear weapons, and we are ready to take further steps to create the conditions for nuclear disarmament negotiations. But any meaningful disarmament must be balanced and verifiable. The Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons does not fill any of these requirements. A world where NATO allies have given up their nuclear deterrent, while Russia, China or countries like North Korea retain their nuclear weapons, is simply not a safer world. Second, we must strengthen and modernize arms control. At NATO, we welcome and fully support the agreement between the United States and Russia to extend New START for 5 years. This treaty limits the number of strategic nuclear weapons for both countries and contributes to everyone's stability. At the same time, we need to include more systems in future arms control. For instance, to cover non-strategic weapons. We should also address the impact on arms control of emerging and disruptive technologies, such as autonomous platforms and artificial intelligence. They can all be weaponized, so we need to consider how to develop new rules and standards for these technologies. And we also need to include more countries in future arms control, in particular China. As a global power, China has global responsibilities in arms control. And Beijing too would benefit from mutual limits on numbers, increased transparency and more predictability. These are the foundations for international stability. Third, we need to continue to respond together when treaties are violated. Russia's repeated violation led to the demise of the INF Treaty. And Moscow's continued development of new missiles poses challenges to our security. We must remain ready to address them. This is why NATO allies agreed a balanced, coordinated and defensive package of measures in response to Russian missile threat. And we will continue to respond in a measured and responsible way. At the same time, we keep the door open for a meaningful dialogue with Moscow, to hopefully lay the groundwork for renewed progress on arms control. Ladies and gentlemen, NATO has a long track record in arms control, and we are determined to continue to play our part. I expect this to be reflected in NATO's next strategic concept. Next to our founding Washington Treaty, this is the most important guiding document for our alliance. And we will develop it in time for the NATO summit in Madrid next year. We have seen in the past that arms control works. It is our collective responsibility to ensure it also works in the future. Disarmament can progress, proliferation can stop, but it will take patience and political will. Working together, we can shape the international security environment for the better. I count on your continued engagement, and you can count on NATO's commitment to security and stability. Thank you very much, and I wish you a very good conference.
To keep up to date on all the breaking news from the British Armed Forces, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us across social media. This has been your latest news from British Armed Forces Daily.